How everybody doing out there? My name is Jason. I'm actually sitting here at Black and Nobel We Ship to Prisons with the inventor of the Willie Lynch letters, Brother Nana. Where I have the privilege of sitting next to.
Did you say something with prisons?
We ship to prisons, yes.
I have a prison thing I do with prisons.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they write me and I write them back and start businesses. Many of them got business out here in the street, but the leader of the business is in prison.
Is that here in the United States or in Africa?
United States.
Yeah,
all over.
Okay, that's good stuff. So, if I may, what made you write the manuscript for the Willie Lynch letters? Yes.
I'm from Durham, North Carolina. Durham, North Carolina is the home of North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company and Farmers and Kansas Bank, the biggest black insurance company in the world and the richest black banks in the world. That's my home. We took for granted college-educated people, black professors. We just took that for granted, and so we never ever consider ourselves super hardship like the rest of the United States with black people, but we thought we were just as good, if not better, than white people. But even though we had all these things, we still wanted to progress. And when we watched the news and TV all across the country, we recognized that, hey, we need to do something too. So we did our part. But I had just graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 1974, and we would have study groups in the evening after I got on work. I was teaching at North Carolina Central University. Okay. So we had maybe about 12 young brothers seated on the faculty, and some community people would come, and we talked and stuff. We didn't have black studies then. We didn't have a black bookstore, none of that. But from these discussions and things like that, we said, why don't we start a black bookstore? And somebody said, yeah, let's do that. We didn't, we just talked. So we thought that to do that, then the rest of the community would be conscious like we were.
Right.
So one night, I was in my kitchen, sitting there drinking some vodka and orange juice. I was about 32 years old, and I was home by myself. And I decided to write something about the role of white people in slavery. So I had read a book called The Black Jacobins. And in that book talks about how brutal slavery was in the South. I had read some books about slavery, but they were not brutal like that in the South.
Right.
I mean, in Haiti. So, but anyway, I wrote this document outlining the brutality of slavery. And then it was 2 pages, front and back. And then the more I thought about it, I said, what am I going to call this thing? And the more I thought about it, I know one thing that did a lot of slavery was lynch people. So there's a town called Lynchburg, Virginia, about 60 miles from Durham.
Right.
And I thought about that. Now I was wondering, I said, I bet you that's with the Lynchburg, that's named because they must have lynched a lot of black people there. So I said, And we used to have a sort of like a name like you have now for black people. And if it was a male, it was Willie. You might have a name you call a male here, not some kind of name, but it was Willie. So I said Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch. And that's how the name Willie Lynch came to be.
Wow.
Then I put that on the letter, Xerox on the old Army machine. And at 12 o'clock midnight, I put them in my car. I ran 500 copies. I just rode all over town, dropping them off in Washats, places like that, where people would pick them up, but they wouldn't necessarily see who did it because it was like 12 o'clock at night.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Wow.
And I didn't tell anyone in my group because I wanted to see I didn't know it was going to work. And I sat back and I say maybe about 3 days stuff ought to start jumping off. 3 days came nothing. 3 weeks came nothing. So I thought, well, I forgot about moving on to the next story. And I did take one to a bookstore. He had one copy of it. I have no copy. I don't know what the hell. I mean, it didn't really mean anything to me, you know. But in any event, 15 years had passed, and I'm at the Million Man March. And lo and behold, Minister Farrakhan, who I admired deeply, read that speech, and I almost fainted because I want to know how did he know about that letter.
Right.
And some people have speculated that what happened was, as people traveled through there, some people picked it up and it began to carry it around. And gradually, some things was added to it, but the basic letter was mine. Matter of fact, I saw a book the other day. It's kind of thick. No, this is not. This book here was added to the original.
Okay.
And there's no copyright in it because they didn't know who wrote it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And so very little has been added to this one, but some others has gotten thicker. These are other people adding to it and so forth. Okay? But the original itself, you know, was just two long sheets like that, front and back. But that's how the letter came. Because anybody could have, but nobody really was. Apparently was doing that very much reading because you won't teach it in school no way. And so, but I thought more people read than me. And so that's how I began to learn this stuff. I was not even a history major, matter of fact. I was a psychology major. And I was an athlete. I was a track guy. And I was a Vietnam veteran. I had changed a lot after coming back from Vietnam though. I really have. But I was a very angry young man, and I took it out and used an instrument to carry out my destructive power and anger toward white supremacy in that letter. That's why I wrote it. But it didn't do anything. I later found out it did a lot, but what it did was create black studies. But it didn't cause people to riot and do all those kind of things because we weren't ready yet, and because that became the foundation for my best-selling book, and that's the psychotechnology of brainwashing, crucifying Willie Lynch. That was the foundation for this book. And this book was written here 15 years ago, but because I produced it myself, it didn't get a whole lot of publicity. But if you go online, you'll see a lot of stuff related to it, and I'm starting to do a lot of interviews now. But that's that 2-page thing led to that. But now to get to this, you had to have a background in psychology, deep psychology, not just regular psychology. And I studied it. I believe I may be the only black person or African person in the United States who knows how to do it and how to get rid of it. There is one person who came close in Africa. His name is thank you. And that's it. Now they are, but all the white people here, there are very few white people know how to do it. It's a specialized area. And I don't care how smart we are and all that and how many means you have, brilliant people we have. You cannot do, unless you have the training, you can't stumble by accident to figure out how to do this. You have to literally be taught the principles of doing it. And so it's been 521 years and nobody has stumbled how to understand. Some people thought, for example, you start studying black history, you can do it. But you can be very, very brainwashed and be an expert in African history. That has nothing to do with reversing the psychological process of mental side of brainwashing.
Right. So, as far as you being able to teach this to other people so that we can systematically go out to reverse the effects of the Willie Lynch letters which you created, how long do you think that process would actually take
Oh, I can tell you, I have actually done. I've taught 2,000, almost 3,000 people. And I've done it for the last 29 years at a major university. I won't call the name of it. And I had on average, I had on average 29 people in a group who would meet for 2 hours once a week, usually on Wednesday. And this book became the training manual of how to do that. And they would practice it and so forth. And let's say, for example, if they were, the first 2 groups I did, the grade point average jumped a whole 2 letter grades. But the females did not at all. They did the same thing the males did, but they didn't get the same results. And I could not figure that out to save my life. I even went to some white psychologists to try to help me figure out, they couldn't help me. And I finally discovered what I had done wrong. I began to treat females like stereotype girls. I should not have done that. So I started treating them as all potential warriors. Anything I needed, whatever, I call on a girl as quick as a boy. The 3rd time I got the same results from the girls and the boys, and I was doing that ever since. Now, I kept meticulous research though. I have brainwashing data of almost 30 years, before and after. And I've been trying to get help and support to go to court to use that data like the black dolls and the white dolls. And I haven't been successful with that, but I have that. And I understand it, because if you know you brainwashed, you're not brainwashed. It's only when you think you're not brainwashed that you are definitely brainwashed, and we can test it out and prove it. Let me give you an example. I'm going to find page 15, 16. I developed a brainwashing test itself. And the brainwashing test is here. And it has form A, and it has form B. Form A measures white culture. Form B measures African people's culture. The average score on Form A is 98. The average score on Form B is 8, E-I-G-H-T. Whether you have a PhD, MD degree, high school dropout, or what.
And this is black men and women.
And white. I standardize on whites too. I standardize on whites who in teacher education. And the results were the same between the blacks and the white teachers' education, but it should be if you think about it. They were in the same curriculum, and so that's all they knew. But I have the data, and the training is extremely effective, and I can tell you those who have gone through, most of the people at the university I have is heavy into engineering, okay? So most of the people were in engineering, and I had no more than 5 psychology majors over 30 years, okay? But I was able to teach them, and they have been able to go and start their own groups and do it themselves. I have at least 15 people who have written books. Matter of fact, there's a very important book coming out next week, and the book is called Afrocentric Education, Charter Schools versus Public Schools. And Philadelphia has a lot of charter schools, but they never had any training on how to do this stuff. And so
you can tell.
That's everywhere, not just here, it's everywhere. But you see, when this stuff is so deep that we can never even guess that somebody would deliberately do something that bad and dangerous to us, and we haven't figured it out. I'm one of about 150 black psychologists in the whole United States right now. It's a very rare. How many black psychologists have you ever talked to or seen?
Talking to you now, yeah.
I'm
Dr. Umar Johnson, right here.
He's not. He's an education psychologist. That's different. Very different. And Dr. Umar Johnson has a lot of potential but he needs also a lot of training. I sent him an email and say once he gets an African last name, then he can move himself out of the brainwashing field. Umar and Johnson don't go together. If you're Afrocentric, that's elementary.
Sir, you're right. Ooh, drop that on in.
But the bottom line though is it can be done.
Right.
And I know, and I do it myself. I don't try to recommend anybody do anything that I haven't done myself to prove that it works.
Right.
So that's the value.
So what do you think about the media, being as though you have that book and you've done all this research, what do you think about what's going on in our media today?
In the media?
Yeah, like the tactics, I believe that most of the tactics are propaganda driven or...
Take a look at that sheet. That's one of the most important things about the reprogramming process. That's the Shanti brainwashing steps. There are 10 of them. Of power, steps of power. That's 9 there, but I've added environmental security now. But one of them would be weapons and communications. You see that?
Yeah. Right
weapons and media.
Right in the middle.
All of those blocks were cleaned out, emptied out completely from black people. Every one of them. And it was replaced back with inferior stuff or no stuff at all. And we had the best we can to create it. So we have no media. What you doing is an act of power right now because you have the media. It's a weapon. You know that, but most people don't know that. And they make damn sure very few people ever learn what you know. No question about that.
Thank you.
That's my answer.
And so you're saying the new book will be available.
The new book is better than this one.
Okay.
I've added 150 pages. It was originally supposed to be a volume 2, but
Are we going to be able to have it available here?
It's going to be available here. I want to do a book signing here.
Yes, sir.
You see, there are 2 places in the country where I know it can have an impact. I was approached by some people from a southern city where they had the Pettus Bridge where the people got beaten up. And it's an all-black town mostly today. And it's small. And the educational stuff is atrocious. I was approached about bringing this program down there to do that. Something happened and didn't get there. Philadelphia is the home of W.E.B. Du Bois. That's my hero. And the first Africans to come to America came to Richmond, Virginia, and Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is the origin of the Black Greek sorority system and the Boule.
Yes, that's right.
That is when they clean out these power blocks. That's what enabled them to take that and place it in selected people. And so today, I came through a place called Koreatown or Chinatown or something like that. And all these black people are there, but all the businesses were by Asians. I don't fault them. I don't fault the Asians. I don't even fault the people. They don't know how to get control. But you can get control once they get back their personality, once they get their mind back. So the best thing in the world could happen today is to be taught or relearn your African culture to go along with your culture of white people. I changed my name. My name used to be Charles Davis. My forefathers came here in 1857. And the little town I'm from, to this day in North Carolina, it had the same last name as the rich white people in the town who used to have the plantation where their names come from, and so forth. And they're just as brainwashed as they can be. And I came out of that environment, so hell, if I could do it, everybody can. And now I'm not remotely angry and mad with white people. I used to be when I wrote the Willie Lynch letter.
Okay.
But once you get your personality back, all of a sudden, hey. And now I went When I first went to Africa, I went there with a known as a nigger. When I came back a king. And I've been promoted since then. Now I'm in Kosahene. I'm king for economic development for the Ashanti Nation. And I'm dual citizenship. And so now we are at the stage where we are, if you will, bicontinental international, just like the Jews, just like the Chinese, just like anybody. And we have to be the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for someone in America, just kind of, if you can, walk us through the process to where you are now from when you were Charles Davis. If you
I was very lucky. I'm 17 years old now. Oh yeah. And I grew up in a little small town with my grandparents. My mother was a single parent. And they raised me. My grandfather lived to be 113 years old. They were field prisoners of war, or slaves. And they taught me. My grandfather was a preacher, but he was not, he acted as a Christian preacher because that's the only open field anybody can go into even to this day. But behind the scenes, he was known as a root doctor. And he was training me in things I needed to know. He wanted me to go to school to be a traditional medical doctor. But I didn't consider myself good enough to be able to do that. But he was sitting me on his lap when I was a young boy, and he'd be reading. He read the Bible, a lot of other books of reading to me, and I picked that up. And then I turned 12 years old. I don't know how it is now, but in the South where I grew up, when you turned 12 years old in the Christian philosophy, you were responsible for your sins. So when I turned 7, my grandma said you have to go to the mourning bench. The mourning bench was a place in the church where you got down on your knees and you prayed to Jesus, say, please save my soul, save my soul. You stayed down there till the Spirit hit you. Then you became a Christian. Well, my granddaddy said, no, you're not taking my boy there. He wouldn't let me go. Instead, he took me to the back of the house in the woods and began to teach me about the different herbs, the trees, the plants, and the traps, and so forth. And then I became his assistant. So when people would come to the house to see him, he would send me on errands to do one thing after another. So my first thing was being trained to be a root doctor. And then as I got older and older, I began to get shame of it and turn away. And then when I went to get to North Carolina Central University to go to college, I went to college on a track scholarship. So I still had left it. And then I went to Vietnam, and it was a change in experience there. I have PTSD controllable. But for those people who don't know what PTSD is, it's very, very real. It's brutality, being in it, experiencing it, and it creates sensations in your brain where you think it's still happening to you. Now, you have people, some people have running around here talking about post-traumatic slave disorder. There's no such thing as that. For it to be post, it had to happen to you. It did happen to you. It happened to your ancestors. So it can't be post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's post-traumatic disorder for your ancestors in slavery. It's different. You see? Now, that seems small, but that's big time. All right. Now, we have not had any treatment whatsoever over a 520-year period. So I'm telling you, I know I have PTSD direct, not my ancestors. That's direct from Vietnam. And so therefore, if I have it, imagine what all the other black people walking around here got. We get treatment. The rest of my people don't get nothing. And so just before 1969 or 69, I think, not 69, but when Obama first went into office.
Okay, that was 2008.
And 8. There were every 30 days there were apologies for slavery coming from New Jersey, England, Kentucky, Florida, North Carolina. Every 30 days, I got suspicious of that. What's going on here? And next thing I know, Obama was president. He ran on office opposing, what you call it, opposing when you're giving back for the damage you done. What is that called? He opposed reparations, but he's for reparations for the Jews today. And we don't ask for it. Most of us are against it. But I'm telling you, we are walking real live examples, every one of us, including me, of direct victims of the lingering consequences of ancestral slavery that Congress says we had. But they said, but you can't use this for reparations. But they said, we will make it whole by giving training money to help it out. I'm asking for the training money. At least a minimum of $60 million are needed to just work in about 5 states to demonstrate and show you what can happen. Okay? Now, but you asked me the question, something about how did I... I got off course.
That's no problem.
but the point is that when I went to Vietnam, I was walking on point, and I picked up a piece of paper, and they said, "Go home, black man. This is not your fight." And I know it was true because I've trained in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and we could not go in the same bar because we were black. And I know they were telling the truth, but I knew they also was trying to kill me. We was in a war, so I would let that use me to break away from my people. But I said to myself that if I ever get back home, I would live to at least 125 years old as long as I take care of my health, stay out of places I ain't got no business being. And I would live, and I would not die cheap at all. So that means that you have my leopard teeth on. These are the teeth of a leopard. Each one is a teeth of a real leopard. My personality is a leopard. I cannot die in my religious beliefs. I can transform from a physical life, however, to a spiritual life and still come back and kill you. That is the value of an African religion. That sounds bad, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Of course it is. It sounds bad to me too when they dropping bombs and stuff on. Oh, they dropped a bomb here in Philadelphia, didn't they? That was real bad. Y'all should have dropped the bomb on him. My book, Root Work and Voodoo and Mental Health.
Oh,
That's what we'll be going in on your
What's the name of
lecture.
that book again?
Root Work and Voodoo and Mental Health.
yes. Because I was going to ask about something, aside, did you get back into that? But obviously you did.
Well, actually, they relate. Okay, for example, all right. Now I wrote that book first.
Okay.
But where's that chart? Here it is. Okay. Look at this and see if you see religion anywhere.
Illusionary event. So it's not even absolute.
Theology.
Bingo!
But it's a
Flung right back in it without even having to do it. You cannot have a nation and society without these things. So that's how it came about, even though I wrote it first. Actually, that book, Religion Block, it gave birth to all the other blocks on this page. The first thing you have to do to make an economic prisoner or a slave, start a religion and everything else will die away. Put your religion back, it'll grow every piece of it.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So that's why you got a Pope who just made two saints the other day. You got Saint Joseph here, Saint this, Saint that. Popes did it, and then that's why you have all these businesses and stores around here. Look at their religion. and look at how the United States protects that religion. It don't want all these foreign religions coming in here. They hold themselves and say, we for diversity. Yeah, as long as they control it. Okay? Our problem is we too diverse. We are too multicultural. That's what caused our brainwashing. Everything about us, Christmas, all the holidays, none of those days are from African culture. We know everybody's culture except who? Our own.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So, but they feed us multiculturalism and diversity. You see somebody start doing that, make a note.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is your first time in the bookstore?
This is the first time I've ever been in the Black and Noble bookstore. Matter of fact, I always knew, I heard of great bookstores in Philadelphia, but this is the first time I've ever been to Philadelphia outside of Temple University. Okay, and I've had a chance to ride over the city and so forth, but I definitely needed to get to a black bookstore, because in the book business, when I first wrote that book, this book, there were 275 black bookstores in the United States according to my data. Today there are 85. I'm from Durham, North Carolina, population about a metropolitan of 1 million people. 0 bookstore, black bookstore. Raleigh, North Carolina, 0 black bookstore. Greensboro, North Carolina, 0 black bookstore. Charlotte, North Carolina, 0. There's not one officially in the whole state of North Carolina. And we are typical. Now, so that means I don't get a chance to see very many new books. I have figured right now it averages about, even when you have all the bookstores, only about 2 new books come out every year. Okay? I'm talking about the books that I like. Okay?
We have a lot of books that come
now,
out.
but you see, you have bookstores, and then you got Black and Noble. This bookstore has books that can save your soul and make you rich. Other bookstores can tell you about woe is me, and this is how it was, like on what's that television show where that lady's having sex with the president all the time?
Scandal.
Like, scandalous bookstores. I don't like scandalous bookstores. I don't want to know nothing about woe is me. The difference between the reading habits of males and females is tremendous. There are exceptions to the rule, but overall, males read historical, political type books. Females read urban literature and stuff like that. You see that reflected also in church. Most of the members go to church, Christian churches are females. Most males don't. And if the males do, they tend to go to political type church. Okay. But when I come in here, and just here alone, in this section here alone, there are classic books from way back, and then there are books in here that were just released a week ago. I would rate these books on a scale from 1 to 10. I would rate them all averaging probably a 7. That's correct. And not only that, the tapes and so forth. To me, this is like this is my so-called quotes Harvard and Yale. This is equivalent in the community itself. Very good stuff. And when my new book is out, and I would tell all my other friends who probably already know, but about this bookstore, and to make sure you put it on this list as part of their search. And I just found out one of my friends will be here tonight. Yes. And we've only met, I think, once or twice.
Who's that?
That's, what's his name?
Professor Griff.
Professor Griff. Yes. And it really made me feel good for Professor Griff to say positive things about it.
right off the Broadway sub-stop, Philadelphia, PA. Shot so loud you would think it was a club spot. African Americans, although we all over the web, we the hood librarians. We ship to prisons too. We reach out and deliver to those that's bitten too, but it's more than a bookstore. You want it, we got it. Mixtapes, DVDs, and culture products. Black and Nobel got our hands in a lot of projects. We welcome all to come build. The energy is positive. Every member of the team is awake and conscious. Come through and experience this place of knowledge. They say they'll put it in a book if they wanna hide it from us, but we got them books so you can buy it from us. Something to read while you on a train or riding the bus. Get your read on, food for thought, get your eat on. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel.